these are the times for builders, and definitely 2023 was the year for builders. It was time to kind of like, get a chance to make your ecosystem better, improve it, produce more utility, get the community involved. And hopefully 2024 will be a year for growth, and still gonna keep on building, but at the same time we have all these prospects for now growing and making Upland bigger and bigger, making the community bigger, making the utility, making the participation bigger, new crowds coming in. Super stoked, super excited for 2024.
Idan, happy 2024.
Happy 2024. How has it been going for you so far, Danny?
Busy.
That's all right. That's a good word to use. Yeah.
You're keeping me busy, so you should know. Yeah, super busy. We have a lot of things going on in Q1 and a lot of exciting developments. So happy we're doing that. I mean, we just did a few weeks ago kind of like a recap, and it was overwhelming just how much we got done and how much we've expanded the platform. And I think there are a few things we're talking about today, but one of the things I was most excited about, that actually seeing it into action, was how much more power in a way and tools we're giving the users, the creators, the developers, and turning this into like a big ecosystem that can grow.
Yeah, and it's pretty amazing. I mean, if we, take ourselves 5 years back, this is this is what we've imagined, and this is what we've been trying to build towards. And it takes time, right? Like it's not easy, but it does follow a very strategic, foresight that we had, that I think we are very much committed to. Just because of the realization that at the end of the day, when we empower the community in masses, the way that the platform and the ecosystem can grow is so much exponentially bigger than what you can achieve just relying on your own team. And I think this is one of the biggest mindset changes basically in Web3, that I don't know if we've yet seen like translated into kind of like the results we are working towards, but we're definitely on our path there, and it's very important. I think it takes years, but imagine where we are, right? Like 4 to 5 years after we've started. Imagine where we'll be 4 to 5 years from now. So I think it's pretty exciting.
And we're manifesting the vision whenever I go on either it's like Twitter Spaces or a lot of, the conferences that are always asking, it's like, how is Web3 gaming or platforms different than the regular Web2 one? And there are obviously a lot of differentiators that have to do with the economy and the technology. But I think there's like a mindset shift that I always mention about, you're not building for an audience, you're building for co-creators. And I think that's the biggest difference. And what we've built in Upland really shows how you can do it and the path towards it, which I haven't seen in a lot of other places, but it's really realizing that vision.
Yeah, and keeping in mind, there are going to be audiences in Upland. There are audiences in Upland. There are also going to be creators, and there are going to be some actors that split both. So there are both creators and audiences to some extent. So it's super interesting the way these ecosystems are developing.
Okay, so before we jump into the products and features, in the next couple of weeks, there are some quality of life features that are coming up that I think a lot of players have been asking for a while, and we'll be really excited because it makes their day-to-day easier. Different search filters when they're trading and when they're looking at their properties and offerings. So those are going to drop real soon and going to make a lot of people happy because we've had a lot of those requests. But let's jump into the big stuff. Obviously, the biggest thing we're working on right now is Spark and Sparklet. What are we working on?
Well, first of all, we're working on the actual implementation. So as has depicted in the white paper that we published, kind of like I forget, was it Q3 or Q4? I think it was Q4, right? Or at least it got approved. Yeah.
Yeah. Approved.
Yeah, so all that needs to be translated into actual code. So there are different elements here. There are the smart contracts on Ethereum, the Ethereum contracts themselves for the Sparklet token, the actual bridge that allows Sparklet owners to bring it into Upland as Spark, and vice versa to reclaim Spark back to Ethereum as Sparklet, which has both smart contract components, both on Ethereum and on Neos, and also a backend component, and basically creating that entire ecosystem. So a lot of work goes to that, and that's being basically completed. So again, we are basically, I would say at the starting to get the sense of the end of this effort to be ready to be deployed when we're ready to do that.
Awesome. Yeah, and we've also asked our community to comment and give suggestions on different platforms on what should be included in the 2024 Spark roadmap. And I think what's going to be exciting is that we're going to share closer to the Sparklet launch the different things we're going to be working on all throughout 2024 in order to increase the utility and usage of Spark in Upland itself.
Absolutely. It's basically, again, we always think about Spark as what gas is to Ethereum, right? It's the thing that runs all of creation, all of building inside of Upland. This is actually going to cast a lot of that content that people are going to be consuming in Upland, and Spark is going to be the underlying resource for that.
There are a few platform mechanics that are coming up in the mission and Fatui. Something that you're excited about?
Yeah, so I think one of them is, and again, the reasoning for our whole mechanism behind the first-time user experience, or which is technically called in short Fatui. Basically, the aim there is to hit onboarded players as much as possible and as quick as possible with what Upland has to offer. And one of the cool things that we're going to do there is going to integrate in the first couple of days after installing the app, the opportunity for players to actually test out our racing ecosystem. So they're going to be dropped with a fake car. So it's not an NFT car. It's just a car that they can use on a temporary basis without truly owning them, and get to experience a bit in our racing. So be able to race them around different racetracks in Upland, just to kind of like be able to present that ecosystem in those first few days, which are super critical to kind of like get people excited about the ecosystem, about the platform, in their journey, in the first day journey as a new Uplander. So this is something pretty exciting that we're working on. Would be integrated probably in the next several weeks.
So what is it going to look like? What are first-time users going to be able to check out?
So they're going to get a temporary car, like, again, not an NFT, not a real car. And during the time where they have it, they're going to be able to get into any speedways, but only race against AI components. So they get a kind of like a sense of how it feels to play and to race. What are the mechanics? They get to kind of like try to, improve their skills. But then it will be taken away. If they actually want to participate in this ecosystem, they will need to get access then to a real car, and then they'll be able to play against real players, et cetera, et cetera.
All right, awesome. More on platform mechanics, we have payment. So we just integrated and announced a couple of weeks ago MetaMask payment, which is a development that, of course, has to do with Sparklet, but also in general, just onboarding more Web3, pure Web3 players onto Upland, and allowing, given the fact we have users from all over the world, just a simpler payment system within the ecosystem. So right now in the first release, you're able to buy UpX with ETH. And the next developments that are happening this quarter is that, one, you're going to be able to buy other packs and Spark with using your MetaMask as well. And we're going to add more ERC20 forms of payments into to the purchase in addition to ETH.
Yeah.
So those are two changes.
And keeping in mind, I mean, again, I often like to reminisce, about our journey, right? But we always envisioned, and actually, we've seen that time and again. Upland has the ability to onboard people that are not necessarily familiar with native Web3 concepts, with crypto payments, with wallets, etc. And I think it's important as part of that education, if we can provide players in Upland their first experience with a crypto wallet, we are basically doing that important task of giving people the first shot at freedom of basically true ownership via crypto wallets. And if what it takes to push them over that cliff is actually some kind of an incentive to do it in Upland, I think that's a huge win. We do have the power to onboard, thousands and thousands and thousands of new participants into the Web3 ecosystem using crypto wallets. So I think that's a great start of this initiative, and we're going to see more of that integrating into Upland.
Yeah, we've already seen the first users utilizing it, so it works. So we have a big one. However, it's going to be the official announcement is going to be dropped this week, but I did insist that we will be able to say something about it in the roadmap update, because this is a really big deal for Upland. So Idan, what can you tell us before the official announcement about seasons?
All right, you're putting me on the spot here, but yeah. So we are, again, people are familiar with the term seasons in Upland up until now, as it pertained to the usage of outdoor decor for seasons. But kind of like the team has come up with a very comprehensive plan about now casting the real essence into the term season, not just from kind of like a decor or structure ornament perspective, but more like from the complete kind of like gaming or gamification side of it. So we are going to do an overhaul to both what the seasons are and what's their meaning to players, and kind of like to how Upland is experienced. And I'm going to probably stop short here because we need to wait for the full announcement for the full details. But it has been something we've been working on and basically getting ready to both announce and launch in steps across 2024. So very exciting, and fun stuff around seasons in Upland.
One of the most exciting things we have within Upland that's creating a lot of buzz is our entire car ecosystem that keeps on developing. What are different changes we're going to see in Q1 to that ecosystem?
Yeah, so I think probably the most important thing is that we can expect on Q1 to see the first manifestation of the ability to use your cars as private transportation to travel in between cities. So this is something we're actively working on and kind of like slowly getting ready to release. And then, of course, the car racing ecosystems, we're going to keep making improvements there. A couple of things that we're currently working on is, the ability, kind of like infrastructural ease of use and mechanics, where, for example, players are able to reload a race if they are cut off in the middle of it, right? Which is something that wasn't able to. Introducing back the qualifying rounds into races after our last, basically, kind of like physics and mechanics improvements. We're going to improve the way that cars take turns to cover a breadth of more kind of like complicated turns that we've seen come up in different speedways. And also, maybe very, very important, is the ability to define the scope of the race. So what kind of cars can participate, right? So if, for example, if I own a Series 4 car, and I want to define a race or start a race, and I don't want people with Series 1 Rs to get in because I'll probably lose, I can define kind of like the scope of who can participate in that race. So that kind of like creates a level playing field for the races that I'm initiating. as competitive racing, especially important for racing for stakes when you race for Apex. So that's something. These are all upcoming in the coming quarter. One thing we are looking into, which is pretty exciting, but for us it's more like an exploration phase right now. We actually want to review our client racing code and consider making it public for players or developers to actually take and maybe build on top of it or create their own iterations of car racing. So you may expect to see that in Q1 we have a couple of tests that will kind of like allow us to see if we are ready to take that step, because I think if that materializes, that can be a very, very empowering factor to the community of developers in Upland in the aim to create even a richer racing ecosystem for the future.
So this is exciting to me. It's very Web3, and there's a lot of opportunities out there. Like, first of all, open sourcing code is something that I'm a true believer in, because the power of the community of developers to add features, suggest different options and features, even, both technically and from a creativity perspective, will always eventually surpass the capacity of the original development team. And that's something I'm really looking forward to. And maybe even bringing a lot of new developers in this way into the Upland ecosystem, saying, look, this is now open code, like come make your suggestions, either fork it and create your own version in Upland and use it as a new dev shop, or make a suggestion directly to us to improve the code and improve the experience for the entire community. So that's really exciting. And although I'm not a racer, so that's why I don't own a car yet, the utility of driving from one place to another with my car is definitely going to incite me into opt into actually purchasing a car now in Upland, because that form of transportation and not being dependent on anything is always a good idea. So I'm very excited about that too, especially because it also ties into the entire Spark ecosystem and makes a lot of sense of how you utilize Spark, and it being the theoretical gas in Upland, but also now the practical gas of some of the features like cars driving from one place to another.
And maybe just another tiny hint, right? Like once you can see travel with private transportation inside of Upland from city to city. Imagine that opens up a whole new opportunity for different types of vehicles that can be manifested in Upland. So that's pretty cool.
So not only different mechanisms, but also different locations. Just like in real life, there are different locations that you can only reach by car that don't have an airport. So I'm excited to see how those might open up once we can travel.
Wink, yeah.
All right, cool. What are the new things we have coming up with regards to MetaVentures?
Yeah, so probably the biggest one would be MetaVenture cafes. So I think definitely in Q1 you can expect the first cafe MetaVentures to open up. And these are going to be based on the cafe structure, players have been used to see. We used to be in San Francisco. I think we had one for was it Tokyo, I think, or for Doge? Remind me. So since then, we've kind of like taken it out. We've created a big community center in San Francisco. That's kind of like the public square in Upland. But then expect to see the launch of these privately run cafes in Upland. The first ones are going to be based on the cafe licenses that were won during Genesis Week of 2023. And then as related to that, there are going to be different opportunities for monetizing on these cafes. These may include things like subscriptions to the cafes, but also purchasing various in-game items. We'll have a full review about that when we're ready to launch. But this is going to start to be released in steps, I think, during Q1.
Yeah, and there's a lot of content out there with regards to Upland related things or other things that just the different communities are really interested in. And having more and more cafes with curated content, with places to meet, with speakers maybe, or different events that is a power multiplier for the entire ecosystem and for the entire community, because we can curate what we think is interesting, but at the end of the day, the community itself knows what they're interested in, can experiment, can bring in different other communities or other content creators to come into Upland and utilize those spaces. Also on Meta Ventures, what can you tell us on the development on Playground? I know it's been highly anticipated UGC feature.
Absolutely. So, I mean, if we look back at 2023, and this was really the genesis of UGC, I think, in Upland in some kind of scale, and you could see that, you know, the birth of submissions has created some bottlenecks on our side, with basically reviewing all of the submissions, approving them, getting them to to a state where the creators can actually produce them in Upland. And we've gone a long way to undo these bottlenecks and to basically streamline them. And one of the coming improvements is going to be, it's very important. So it's beyond the automatic tools that would check for errors before they even get to our team. The creator would be able to actually utilize these assets and deploy them to a sandbox environment, so they could actually put them on a property, see, you know, how big it looks, does it fit, watch it from different angles, see how it manifests on that map. And what we expect it to happen is that a lot of these issues that we've seen in our backend will be caught by the creator, fixed even before it gets submitted. So I think this is something that will very much improve and kind of like make our process of approving UGC content more efficient. And the end result would be much more content deployed in Upland, and just an easier time for creators to create for Upland.
Yeah, this is the only way to really prepare for scale, because I've researched other ecosystem and, what is the process for creators. A lot of it is still super manual. You have to wait for weeks for approvals. We knew that this is, especially with the amount of UGC that's coming up and the excitement around the different features that we're allowing to produce in UGC, and the roadmap that we have for even more UGC items to be created in the future, it just has to be as automated and smoothed out as possible to accommodate for the scale that we're expecting. So this is definitely a really important tool for the creator economy, and then also for the people who are collecting and purchasing these items to have the new ones, maybe even related to seasons, and everything just ready for scale. The next item we are gonna have a new feature in NFLPA replicas. So what are these legit replicas? I know it's been talked about in the past, but maybe you can give a little review.
Yeah, so we're gonna have full information when we roll out the features. But again, just to reiterate, replicas are, as called, replicas of memento items. But what makes it unique again is that they, similar to mementos, which are wearables, replicas are also going to be wearables. And the way that you are gonna be able to get to replicas is by having different burning requirements for essentials. And what kind of essentials you burn and how much will have an effect on which replicas you're going to be able to access. So you can expect to see during Q1 the first appearance of NFLPA replicas.
All right, and starting this week, already making a lot of noise. People know, the community knows about it, but because it's going to take such a big part of Q1, maybe you do want to throw in a few words about Totem, the life cycle, how Protom's going to work, high level. What are we going to see this quarter in the Totem ecosystem?
Yeah, so what's really exciting about it is that we don't know really what to anticipate, and the first cycle and maybe cycles of totems are going to be a lot about exploration, both from totem holders as they kind of like get an understanding of how to take care of the totems to maximize the efficiency of harvesting protem. Be really interesting to see how people basically go on social and on our chat and on Discord and kind of like compare notes and basically figure out this puzzle of what is the totem and how it relates to Protem in Upland. But it's also an exploration phase for us. We are anxious to see how players are kind of like interacting with the totems. How hard it is to figure it out. Once figured out, how hard or easy it is to actually follow the instructions. And granted that every totem is unique, every totem has a different set of rules. In a different way that it kind of like maintains Protem, giving back Protem per what's being spent on it. So really interesting for us. Again, this whole project is super fun, but for us it has an experimental value in kind of like taking the first steps into putting together and figuring out what would be the mechanics behind life in the future in Upland.
So regarding the Upland dev tools that keep on getting developed, something exciting we had in the past few months was the mini game challenge. And it really showed how when we do a competitive challenge and we incentivize the developer community, they come out with really cool things. We have between 6 to 10 new games, all from the challenge, being deployed in Upland in the next few weeks and will be playable soon. That's an amazing achievement, and because it was such an excitement, you could probably look forward to having something similar in Q1. We'll change the challenge a little bit, but the idea really is, okay, bringing more developers, having more things to do in Upland, more ways to earn UPX, more things to do with your existing NFTs. The games we've seen so far, some that have been published and some that haven't yet and are still being like last touch-ups, are really cool, are really engaging, and we know that you just want more and more things to do. So you can definitely expect another challenge coming up with regards to our dev tools in Q1. And I think that wraps it up.
Awesome.
We have a lot to do.
Yeah, we need to get to work. Out of all of this, what excites you the most, Danny, for Q1?
Oh, Q1. Well, I'm so biased. Obviously, it's Spark and Sparklet because it's just a whole new world that opens up, and I can already my brain's already working, thinking about all the things that once we have that huge infrastructural in a way milestone of having Sparklet in the bridge, what can be done next is just like whoosh, and connecting us to different ecosystems as well. So that's the most exciting for me. What about you?
All of it. That's the easy answer.
Yeah, it's really the vision coming together.
And again, I think these are the times for builders, and definitely 2023 was the year for builders. It was time to kind of get a chance to make your ecosystem better, improve it, produce more utility, get the community involved. And hopefully 2024 will be a year for growth. And, still going to keep on building. But at the same time, we have all these prospects for now growing and making Upland bigger and bigger, making the community bigger, making the utility, making the participation bigger, new crowds coming in. Super, super stoked, super excited for 2024.
Yeah, and we've built a lot of the growth infrastructure to prepare for this, right? It sounds like a lot of the things that are in the back end that are not user facing are sometimes a little more boring, but when you're coming to this like, okay, near explosion, everyone's talking about GameFi platforms, everyone's talking about token utility, and we have all that now, and we've built the infrastructure to prepare it for scale. I'm so ready for 2024.
Yeah, and I think like a lot of the, I know after all these roadmaps, a lot of the common feedback that we get is, yeah, but what about property utility? But if you think about it for a second, every single feature that we're working on at the end of the day all ties back to property utility. At the end of the day, it's making your locations matter. It's making the way, what you can do with your actual property, what you can put on it, what you can turn it into, how that associates to a local community that was only made possible because of the properties and the locations. Everything at the end of the day ties to Upland. Upland's substrate, Upland's bottom layer is the locations. They are the properties. And then everything builds on top of that, stacks on top of that. Every single feature at the end of the day, I think that we work on in Upland today somehow connects into that grand title of property utility.
Yeah. All right. 2024. I'm ready.
All right, let's go.